Hey there, lovelies. So today we're going to talk about a subject that comes up a lot, and that is Chihuahua aggression. So Chihuahuas are naturally quite an excitable breed. They spend a lot of time charging around. They spend a lot of time in high arousal, and they are, as a breed, quite a feisty breed. And they can be a bite first and ask questions later kind of dog. Now, obviously, that doesn't apply to them all. Some Chihuahuas are completely chilled, are completely relaxed, but that's not the breed norm. Now we have Minnie, who is very relaxed, very chilled out, a very optimistic little dog, has never curled a lip at anybody, never had a problem with anyone. So she is not remotely aggressive, but she is, as I said, a very optimistic dog. Now, pessimism, which is the opposite of optimism, plays a very big part in why our Chihuahuas can be aggressive and feisty. And we're going to talk a little bit to this later on. Okay, so what does aggressive behavior actually look like? Now, this can be different to different dogs, and this is a very general list, okay? But it could be biting when you try to handle them, biting you when you go to pet them. It could be growling at you, growling at children running about. It could be barking at other dogs, growling and barking if you try and move them off the bed. Just generally, it's when they are giving you a negative reaction to the event that they find themselves in or the situation that they find themselves in. Now, that can be anything from just lifting their lip. That's the Chihuahua curled lip of doom. We've all seen it. Mika, our Mika, is an absolute star for the Chihuahua curled lip of doom, but it can just be that, which is a warning, all the way up to growling and air snapping to a full-on contact bite. So it's important to talk about what aggression isn't, okay? Because it is quite a complicated behavior, and it is a behavior that leaves owners baffled as to what's going on, and the tendency can be to put a label on it. So you might find to a dog that's barking at another dog in the street, people, oh, he's trying to protect you, or he wants to dominate the other dog, or he thinks he's a Rottweiler. We've all heard them. It's small dog syndrome. I don't even know what small dog syndrome is supposed to mean. What it isn't as well is amusing, okay? There are countless videos on various social media platforms of dogs being aggressive and people thinking it's funny. Okay, it is not funny. It's not only is that damaging to the person who may get bitten, but it's also crushing your dog's confidence. It isn't, the dog isn't doing it because they are enjoying it. They're doing it because they're worried. There are hundreds of these videos. I deplore them. When your Chihuahua is behaving in an aggressive way, you need to take that as information that your dog is unhappy. Your dog is not coping with that situation. So what can it actually look like? What does aggressive behavior look like? It can be different for different dogs, and this is not a definitive list, but it could be biting when you handle them, biting you when you try and put the harness on them. It could be barking at other dogs in the streets, very, very common one for Chihuahuas. It could be growling or snapping at you when you try and move them, when you go near their food bowl, when you touch their toys. It could be chasing children who move about. It can be any number of these things, but basically it is your dog giving you a negative reaction to the situation that they find themselves in, or to the event that they are faced with. So why are our Chihuahuas aggressive? They are not born aggressive. While they are a feisty breed and while they are an excitable breed, dogs are not born aggressive. It is a learnt behavior. It is something they learn from us. And quite often it can be because of the way they've been handled. It could be because of past experiences. It could be any number of reasons. They could have been attacked by another dog. They could have been manhandled. But quite often this aggression is something that creeps up on you, that you kind of think, well, I haven't done any of these things to my dog. Why is he snapping at me? But often It's the failure of the owner to recognize when your dog is saying, no, I don't want this. And the owner is continuing to put that dog into a situation that they don't want and they are not happy with. Now, all dogs have a whole range of ways they communicate to people, the ways that they communicate they don't want something. That can be from just doing nothing, from being still, to going stiff, to just turning their head away, to yawning, all the way up to lifting their lip, to backing away from you. It's called the ladder of communication, which I will just put on the screen for you that way. Um, so you can actually, and you can download it. I'll put it in the comments below so you can download it. But the ladder of communication is how your dog is telling you, no, I don't want this, or no, I'm unhappy with this. And the reason Chihuahuas and probably other toy breeds become aggressive is because people ignore it. People, so I've always said this, that a dog, how much training a dog gets depends on how inconvenient their behavior is for their owner, which is why larger dog breeds and more powerful dog breeds tend to get better training. Because if you have a German Shepherd who is getting their teeth out when you try and put the harness on them, that's an issue. If they are barking and lunging at dogs or people in the street, that's an issue. But when your Chihuahua does it, or when a toy breed does it, it's funny. Okay. So people tend to ignore what the dog is finding stressful and what the dog is finding worrying. So rather than work with our Chihuahuas, they tend to end up with things done to them. Whereas you might work with your Mardi German Shepherd, people, when it's a Chihuahua, people just do things to them because they're small. I'm convinced it's because they're small and they can be handled easily. No one thinks about, does my dog actually want this? Do they want to be picked up? Do they want to be put in an outfit? Do they want to put their harness on? Do they want to go out for a walk? And the more you just do things to your dog and ignore your dog's communications, the more the dog was going to predict every time you move, every time your hand goes towards them, that something they don't want is going to happen. They have communicated to you previously that they don't want this, and all of that's been ignored. So they go straight to your hand moves to go and pet them, and they go straight to bite because they don't want this, and because of what they are going to predict is going to happen next, and because they have learnt that their efforts to communicate have just been ignored. Another reason for Chihuahua aggression is quite often training methods that people use. Now, for some reason, and again, I'm going to go with it must be size. Chihuahuas get some of the worst training advice I think I've ever seen. Now, we have a huge positive Chihuahua training group on Facebook, and some of the comments, we do moderate this quite heavily, but some of the comments that people assume is a good training method are absolutely frightful. One of the most common ones is if your Chihuahua's barking, then squirt them with water, or shake a can of coins at them, or put a collar on them that gives them a shock or a vibration, or use ultrasonic scary noises, these horrible cans that make a really loud noise. All these methods contribute to pessimism around movement and around your presence. So it might seem harmless. Another one, citronella. Why would anybody squirt citronella up a dog's nose? Their ability to smell is 40 times more powerful, or the part of their brain that deals with smell is 40 times larger than ours. Squirting citronella up a dog's nose is unbelievably horrible thing to do. So when the dog is smaller, rather than look at what your dog needs or look at the skills that the dog needs to cope with that situation, people just do things to them. They just squirt them with water. They just tap them on the nose or do anything. So the dog starts to predict something bad is going to happen. Now, So, how you socialize your dog will have a huge impact on how reactive and how aggressive your dog is. And it's really important that you don't follow these old narratives around putting your dog into high pressure situations in an effort to socialize them. Puppy classes are the same situation. They are overwhelming. They are going to create unhelpful flashbulb memories for your dog, which your dog is going to worry about. And then when other things happen, they are going to predict an unpleasant outcome and they are going to become aggressive. So in a nutshell, aggression is your dog worrying about what's going to happen next and feeling the need to defend themselves. Now, you might find that is something as easy as you just bending down to touch them and your dog snapping at you. That's a learnt behavior. That is a behavior that is, and it might not be from you. It might be something that the dog has learnt from someone else in a previous life. But it is when someone reaches down, there is generally an unpleasant outcome, and I feel the need to defend myself. It really is that simple. It's over arousal, it's anxiety, it's prediction of what your dog is going to think is going to happen next. So, what can we do to stop our dogs being aggressive? Now, as ever, with any dog behavior, prevention is better than cure. It's always easier to stop a dog behavior, an unhelpful behavior happening, than it is to unpick it. So, if you have a puppy, make sure the dog has plenty of rest, make sure the dog is getting plenty of downtime and has good mental stimulation. Make sure the dog isn't being overhandled. Make sure the dog isn't being scooped up, and you work more on a consent-based handling protocol rather than everyone just picking the dog up when they want. Never, ever, ever use methods like squirting your dog with water, shaking cans of coins at them, alpha rolling them. There's a whole list of really, really terrible training advice that goes round and round in these chihuahua groups. All of these are going to create a pessimistic outlook for your dog. So when you have a puppy, guard their optimism. We want them to see the world through rose-colored glasses. So they're like Minnie. So everything's brilliant and everything's great, and I don't have to worry about everything. Now, if you have an older dog that's aggressive, it is entirely possible to unpick that. But the first thing you need to think about is preventing rehearsal of the events that make them aggressive. So if they are being aggressive because you're putting the harness on them, stop putting a harness on them. If they're being aggressive because you pick them up, then stop picking them up. So you see that you start to undo this idea that every time you go near your dog, that there's going to be an unpleasant outcome for your dog. Again, if you're using any of these adverse training methods like squirting your dog with water or anything that creates an unpleasant sensation, stop it. Okay, start to think about, what is my dog learning from that? And if your dog is learning, my owner can't be trusted, that is not a good lesson. That is not something you want, that's going to be good for your relationship. So if you have an aggressive chihuahua, or you have a chihuahua that's reacting negatively to a situation they find themselves in, rather than push them through it because it's easy because they're small, look at the skills that they need in order to cope better with that situation. Now, three key skills that most dogs need is calmness, confidence, and optimism. A dog that's calmer is a dog that is going to be able to think. A dog that's optimistic is a dog who is not going to predict danger every time they hear a noise. And it's the same with confidence. A dog that is confident is a dog who's not going to be worried by every bit of movement and by every sound that they hear. So these are the key skills that we need to give our dogs in order for them not to be aggressive or to start damping down already aggressive behavior. Now, that might sound like a lot. That might sound like that you don't know how to do this. One of the key ways to do this, just by playing little games with your dog that give your dog the opportunity to experience easy wins. So if you have a problem with aggression and you're not sure where to turn and you're not sure how to resolve it, then join us in Chihuahua School. Chihuahua School is our online program where we help owners teach their dogs the skills they need to cope. So we will teach you how to teach your dog not to be worried around movement, not to be worried by every noise they hear, not to respond to triggers for barking, and how to go on a walk without feeling the need to bark at everything that moves. So I will put a link to the information for Chihuahua School in the comments, so you feel free to check that out. If you have any questions, then please put them in the comments below. YouTube thinks that you're going to like the next video that's coming up here, so please feel free to check that out. And I look forward to speaking with you again soon. Take care for now. Bye.